I want you to picture this really idyllic scene for a second. It's March 15th, 2019.
Okay, setting the scene.
Right. And you are at the Indian Springs Resort in Calistoga, California. It's right in the heart of wine country.
Oh, it sounds terrible.
Oh, yeah. Just awful, right? It's this sprawling Spanish Mission-style property. You've got palm trees, natural hot springs, and lounging around this massive Olympic-sized pool is the YouTube marketing team.
So like taking a break from it all.
Exactly. They are on this company retreat that they unofficially dubbed a well-being code red. So they're, sipping drinks, taking pizza-making classes, and watching these inspirational corporate videos from 2017 about how YouTube's core mission is to give everyone a voice and show them the world.
It's the perfectly manufactured Silicon Valley utopia.
Completely. But what's fascinating here and really dark is the horrifying contrast taking place at that exact moment halfway across the globe.
Right, because while that marketing team is literally soaking in a heated pool, a terrorist is walking into a mosque in Christchurch, New Zealand. Yeah, and he is live streaming a mass shooting. It's this horrific rampage, leaving over 50 people dead. And right before he opens fire, he looks directly into his body camera and utters this chilling battle cry. He says, "Remember, lads, subscribe to PewDiePie."
Which is, that's a direct reference to YouTube's biggest, most controversial star at the time.
Exactly.
The cognitive dissonance of those two simultaneous events is just staggering. And I think to understand how we got there, you really have to grasp the sheer, incomprehensible scale of the machine we are talking about here.
The numbers are almost too big to make sense of.
They really are. We are looking at a platform where 450 hours of video are uploaded every single minute.
Every minute.
Yeah. It draws in 2 billion monthly visitors, and it is entirely driven by an algorithm that will serve you like wholesome lunch doodles with children's authors, right? And then in the very next breath, it funnels you into a dark underbelly that YouTube employees internally labeled nightmare fuel.
Which is a great name for it, honestly.
Yeah, it is. It's stuff like the Tide Pod Challenge or that infamous Logan Paul suicide forest video.
And the thing is, this machine wasn't handed down from on high. It was engineered. And that gap between the stated mission of giving everyone a voice and the reality of algorithmic nightmare fuel, that is exactly what we are dissecting today in this deep dive.
Right. The mission of this deep dive is to figure out how did a scrappy, rat-infested startup that was originally meant for hosting dating videos accidentally build the most powerful, unmanageable, and chaotic media machine in human history.
So quite a pivot. We're going to explore the collision of amateur creativity, the billion-dollar panic of corporate America, and ultimately the rise of the algorithmic editor.
But to understand how this machine became completely unmanageable, we have to look at its wildly innocent origins. Back in a Menlo Park garage.
Right. Let's go back to early 2005. You have 3 former PayPal employees, Chad Hurley, Steve Chen, and Jawed Karim, and they're just batting around ideas.
Like every other guy in Silicon Valley at the time.
Exactly. And their original vision for what would become YouTube was heavily inspired by the hot or not rating craze, but they wanted to apply it to video.
Wait, their initial slogan was tune in, hook up, right?
Yes. Tune in, hook up. They are so desperate to populate this dating platform that they actually posted Craigslist ads in Los Angeles and Las Vegas.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they were offering women $20 to just upload videos of themselves.
And let me guess, no one did it.
Nobody took the bait.
Yes.
0 responses. But, that failure forced a critical pivot. They abandoned the whole dating angle and shifted to a Flickr for video concept, just a generic repository for personal clips.
Which culminates on April 23, 2005, with Jawed Karim's historic 18-second upload.
Me at the zoo.
Yes, me at the zoo. He's literally just standing in front of some elephants, pointing out that they have long trunks.
It's a stunningly mundane piece of media.
It really is. But it shifted the entire ethos of the company toward a new motto, which was broadcast yourself.
Okay, but let's unpack this for a second. Because a catchy motto doesn't just spontaneously generate billions of users.
Right. Something else had to happen.
What actually saved YouTube was a brilliant technical maneuver. Competitors at the time, like Google Video, they were treating web video like traditional broadcast television.
Meaning what, exactly?
Meaning they forced viewers to visit a specific destination site to consume the content. But YouTube's founders engineered a workaround using Flash.
Oh, right. Because back then, HTML was incredibly clunky.
So limiting. If you wanted to share a video before this, you essentially had to force someone to download the file or visit your specific host page. But YouTube packaged their video, the playback logic, and the user interface all into a single portable flash file.
So the video player could just run seamlessly inside any browser with a Flash plugin, completely independent of the youtube.com domain.
Exactly.
Okay, I have to say, they basically built a digital Trojan horse.
Oh, 100%.
Because at that specific moment in 2005, MySpace was the undisputed king of the internet. You had millions of teenagers practically living on their MySpace pages.
It was the entire social internet.
Right, and YouTube's Flash player made it totally frictionless to embed a video directly onto a MySpace profile. So they essentially hijacked MySpace's massive user base, siphoning off millions of eyeballs while using MySpace's digital real estate for free.
It was incredible.
So I have to ask you, is this a brilliant feature or just a brilliant act of digital parasitism?
Honestly, both. It was a masterclass in parasitic growth, but it functioned perfectly as a feature for the users. And it ignited the powder keg that birthed the YouTuber.
Because once people realized they could leverage this portable player to reach massive audiences on MySpace, the content just exploded.
Right, you had Brick Brodak posting her manic Numa Numa dance lip syncs. It was raw, unpolished, and completely novel.
And then, of course, you had the Lonely Girl 15 phenomenon, Brie.
Oh, Brie. She was the prototype for parasocial relationships online.
For anyone who doesn't remember, she was the seemingly normal teenager uploading video diaries from her bedroom. She'd talk about her day, but slowly she started dropping these bizarre hints about a cult.
And the internet just became utterly obsessed with solving the mystery of her life.
But it turned out to be a complete hoax. Brie was actually an actress named Jessica Rose. The entire vlog was scripted by two struggling Hollywood filmmakers shooting in a bedroom that they literally dressed with props from Target.
And the crazy thing is, the audience didn't even care.
No, when the hoax was exposed, they just kept watching it as interactive fiction.
But here's the catch with all this growth. This massive influx of hijacked MySpace traffic inherently meant losing control of the platform's demographics.
Well.
With millions of viewers pouring in, you also get a tidal wave of copyright infringement, pornography, and just absolute legal nightmares.
Which leads us to the physical reality of what was basically a moderation Pandora's box.
Yeah, if we look at the physical reality of YouTube at this time, they were operating out of an office in San Mateo, California, directly above an Amici's pizza shop.
And the space was completely overrun with rats.
Literally infested.
The employees leaned into it, putting plush toy rats on the reception desk as mascots. And sitting right in the middle of this rat-infested chaos is the office manager, Heather Gillette. She suddenly finds herself managing a deeply traumatized moderation team called Squad.
Which stood for safety, quality, and user advocacy.
Right. Squad was the frontline defense against the absolute darkest impulses of the internet.
But you have to remember, there was no precedent for what they were doing. None. They were entirely improvising. The moderation team literally had to sit around a monitor, point at body parts, and debate whether an upload constituted a violation of their extremely vague terms of service.
They eventually compiled a 70-page manual, right?
Yes, the shock and disgust manual.
Yeah.
It documented rules for everything from animal cruelty to pro-anorexia thinspo videos. And they operated under this very ambiguous Silicon Valley interpretation of the First Amendment.
Okay, let me actually push back on that free speech narrative for a second. Were they actually standing up for free expression, or were they just doing the absolute bare minimum to avoid liability while maximizing their growth? Because the sources point out that early YouTube had a literal sign on a desk that said, "Do not appease the Germans."
Right, that was when Germany requested the removal of Nazi imagery.
Exactly. Yet when someone uploaded a blatantly pirated copy of Saturday Night Live's Lazy Sunday rap video, YouTube dragged its feet taking it down.
Yeah.
Because they loved the massive viral traffic it generated.
They absolutely did.
So that doesn't sound like a principled stand for the listener's free speech. It sounds like sanitizing the site exactly enough to not get sued into oblivion by big media.
Well, the sources certainly suggest their principles were highly malleable when growth was on the line, and the reality of a borderless internet quickly broke traditional physical jurisdiction anyway.
How so?
The old model of localized moderation just couldn't scale. So they hired a lawyer named Nicole Wong. She earned the nickname The Decider. Her job was to navigate these impossible international crises. Because YouTube was globally accessible, a single video could violate a localized law and cause an international incident.
Oh, like in Thailand.
Exactly. The government of Thailand demanded the takedown of videos insulting their king. which is a severe crime there. And Turkey banned YouTube entirely over a video insulting the founder of modern Turkey.
And that video was uploaded by rival Greek soccer fans, right?
Yes. So YouTube was accidentally triggering diplomatic crises from a pizza shop in San Mateo.
Which is wild. And the constant threat of being shut down by foreign governments or sued by American media conglomerates made it really obvious that they needed adult supervision and a massive legal defense fund.
Luckily, the biggest adult in Silicon Valley was desperately trying to crack the code on video.
Enter Google.
Right. In 2006, Google Video was struggling. Run by Susan Wojcicki, their approach was entirely top-down. They were trying to index professional content, cataloging Charlie Rose episodes, and negotiating these buttoned-up distribution deals with CBS.
Meanwhile, YouTube's chaotic bottom-up amateur energy was just obliterating them in daily traffic.
Google realized you just can't engineer a cultural phenomenon from the top down. If they couldn't beat the chaos, they had to acquire it.
So Salar Kamengar, who is famously known as the secret president of Google, pushes hard for the deal. And by October 2006, Google buys YouTube for an astonishing $1.65 billion.
Huge money back then.
Huge. Chad Hurley and Steve Chen shot this very awkward, giggling video in a parking lot declaring, "Two kings have gotten together."
But the culture clash was immediate and profound.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because this acquisition was essentially the equivalent of a buttoned-up Ivy League fraternity being legally forced to adopt a punk rock squatter's house.
That's a great way to put it.
You have Google's data-obsessed, PhD-heavy stormtroopers invading YouTube's untucked, gut instinct pizza box-filled office.
The clash was intense.
Yeah.
But you have to admit, Google's infinite infrastructure is what allowed YouTube to actually scale from a viral video site into a legitimate global public forum.
True. By 2007, they are co-hosting the CNN YouTube presidential debates.
Right, where you have ordinary citizens submitting video questions directly to political candidates.
And it's fascinating looking at the sources, whether it's the 2007 CNN debates featuring serious questions mixed with, like, a guy in a literal chicken suit asking about agriculture.
Right.
Or later on with Donald Trump making appearances in WWE videos on the site. And I want to be really clear here to you listening. Regardless of anyone's personal politics, we can see exactly how the platform was becoming an unavoidable political battleground.
Absolutely.
We aren't endorsing any candidate or taking any political side here. The sources just objectively show us the historical reality of the platform scaling into a massive public square.
And becoming that massive public square brought an unforgiving mandate from Google. They had to turn this chaotic community into a highly profitable advertising machine, because the honeymoon period evaporated the moment the lawsuits arrived.
Oh boy. March 2007. The Goliath steps onto the battlefield. Sumner Redstone's Viacom sues Google and YouTube for $1 billion over copyright infringement.
$1 billion.
Viacom didn't look at YouTube and see an innovative community. They saw digital pirates running a massive fencing operation. I mean, a Viacom executive famously described YouTube's business model as handing people keys to cars on the car lot and selling hot dogs.
And honestly, Viacom had a seemingly ironclad point. YouTube was building its $1.65 billion valuation on the backs of stolen intellectual property.
Yeah.
Millions of users were consuming clips of South Park, SpongeBob, and The Daily Show for completely free.
Right. I would assume Viacom had the upper hand here. How did Google fight off a $1 billion infringement claim when the pirated videos were undeniably sitting on their servers?
Through incredibly aggressive data forensics. Google's lawyers didn't just play defense. They subpoenaed marketing agency records and dug deep into the metadata.
What did they find?
They cross-referenced IP addresses from public Kinko's computers with the exact upload timestamps of Viacom clips.
Wait, like the copy shops?
Yes. They discovered that Viacom's own PR employees and contracted marketing agencies were secretly going to copy shops to anonymously upload clips of their own shows to YouTube.
No way.
Yes. They were artificially generating viral buzz while their own executives were crying piracy in court. So Google mathematically proved that even the media giants themselves couldn't distinguish between pirated material and authorized promotional material.
That is wild. So the lawsuit is neutralized, but YouTube still has to solve the core puzzle, which is how to actually generate revenue. Because Chad Hurley hated pre-roll ads. He felt they fundamentally ruined the frictionless user experience that made the Flash player so successful in the first place. So since the platform wouldn't run traditional commercials, the creators basically had to invent the business model themselves.
And this is really the genesis of the creator economy. You have the Smosh comedy duo, these two kids from Sacramento, getting paid $15,000 directly by a hardware company, just to casually feature as View media player in one of their sketches.
And then you have gadget reviewer Noah Kravitz pioneering the highly addictive unboxing genre.
Right, allowing viewers to vicariously experience opening a new iPhone because they couldn't afford to buy one themselves.
The creators were basically hacking the system to monetize their own audiences, and Google recognized that if they didn't institutionalize this, creators would just take their audiences elsewhere. So they launched the partner program.
Officially splitting ad revenue 55-45 with the creators.
But here is the massive infrastructural shift. At the exact same time, Google buys the ad tech giant DoubleClick for $3.1 billion.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, DoubleClick was the engine that changed everything.
How so?
Well, DoubleClick allowed Google to track user intent across millions of third-party websites using cookies. By marrying DoubleClick's cross-site behavioral tracking with YouTube's massive video consumption metrics, Google wasn't just selling ads against video anymore.
What were they selling?
They were selling highly targeted behavioral profiles to advertisers. The entire focus of the company shifted to one single metric: unprecedented scale.
But to scale advertising to billions of views, you can't rely on human beings to curate the homepage. I mean, human editors just don't scale. If you want to serve billions of ads, you need to engineer human behavior to keep people on the site longer.
Exactly. And this marks the end of the cool hunters.
The human curators.
Right. In the early days, YouTube's homepage was curated by actual human beings. A woman named Sadia Harper and her team handpicked what went on the front page. They championed quirky indie bands and artistic vloggers.
Oh, didn't they famously reject featuring a young kid from Canada named Justin Bieber?
They did. They rejected him because they felt he lacked originality, since he only sang cover songs at the time.
Wow. But Google executives demanded relevance. And in Silicon Valley, relevance doesn't mean taste. It means algorithmic optimization.
So they tested a new algorithmic homepage design. They ran a trial specifically on the cars category. Instead of humans picking interesting automotive videos, they let the algorithm populate the page based purely on what users clicked on the most.
And what happened?
Well, the algorithm was completely blind to context. It didn't know what a car was. It only knew what generated engagement. Instantly, the page flooded with a highly specific fetish.
Oh, no.
It surfaced endless videos of women in high heels pumping the gas pedals of luxury cars. The human curators objected, obviously. They argued that pedal fetishes were not the brand identity they wanted to project, but the code generated more clicks. So the human curators were fired, and the algorithm took absolute control.
Let me offer an analogy for this shift because it's so important. Firing the cool hunters and installing the algorithm was basically like firing a Michelin star chef who curates a menu based on taste and culture and replacing them with a chemical engineer who only optimizes recipes for the absolute maximum dopamine hit of sugar and fat.
That's a very accurate comparison.
The engineer doesn't care if the food is good for you. They only care that you literally cannot stop eating it.
That is precisely what happened.
Right.
And the creators recognized this shift immediately. They realized that the audience was no longer their primary master. The algorithm was.
Right.
If they wanted to survive, they had to feed the machine exactly what it wanted. Which brings us to Danny Zappin.
Yes. Enter Danny Zappin.
Zappin is a fascinating figure. He's an ex-con who actually learned to paint in prison. He moves into a Venice beach house and founds Maker Studios, which he envisions as the United Artists of YouTube.
But he doesn't just put creators in a house to collaborate, does he?
No, he analyzes the new algorithm. He realizes the algorithm favors high upload frequency and retention metrics over artistic quality. So he sets up a literal assembly line for creators like the Shaytards.
Wow.
He brings in dedicated writers, editors, and thumbnail optimizers to professionalize the Wild West production style.
Yeah.
He figured out how to hack the recommendation engine to guarantee millions of algorithmic views to advertisers.
So the creators learned how to reverse engineer the algorithm. The algorithm learned how to perfectly feed the advertisers via double-click profiling. And the original human vision of YouTube, three guys trying to make a dating site, was swallowed whole by an autonomous machine.
If we synthesize this entire journey, it really is staggering. YouTube hijacked MySpace's user base with a portable Flash player. They survived a physical rat infestation and the traumatizing psychological toll of the squad moderation manual. They fended off a $1 billion lawsuit from Viacom, using data forensics to expose corporate hypocrisy. And ultimately, they morphed from a quirky community curated by cool hunters into a massive, algorithmic money printing machine under Google.
And this matters to you listening right now because it is the digital water you swim in.
Every day.
Every single time you click a recommended video today, you are interacting with the ghosts of that early San Mateo office. You are navigating the legacy of the shock and disgust manual, the behavioral profiling of the DoubleClick acquisition, and that fateful algorithmic test that flooded the homepage with a pedal fetish just because it optimized for engagement over taste.
The entire attention economy you live your life in was built by trial, error, panic, and the ruthless pursuit of scale.
Exactly, which raises an incredibly important question about where this machine is heading next. And I want to leave you with a final lingering thought to mull over. We've just explored how YouTube's early algorithm was designed to optimize blindly for clicks, which led it to surface strange human obsessions. It was essentially a dark mirror, reflecting our weirdest, most impulsive desires back at us to keep us watching.
Yeah.
But as artificial intelligence becomes infinitely more advanced, moving beyond simple recommendation engines into generative content, what happens when this invisible editor stops just reflecting what we want?
What do you mean?
Well, what happens when an algorithm actually starts predicting and shaping our psychological development before we even consciously know what we desire? If the algorithm is already the most powerful editor in human history, optimizing our attention for profit, you really have to ask yourself, moving forward, who is really programming who?
That's a heavy thought.
Think back to that peaceful pool in Calistoga and the algorithmic nightmare fuel streaming out of Christchurch. The machine is running at full speed. The question is, who is actually at the wheel?